Welcome to Memphis Light Gas and Water's June 2023 Power Pivot webinar. I'm Gale Jones Carson, the Vice President and Community Services. Today's topic is attracting and retaining employees in the new normal. Our guests today, our panelists are Brian Duffy, who's the Paychex HR and Compliance Division representative, and Joseph Castleman, who also works for Paychex, and he's a sales representative. One of the biggest challenges facing small businesses today is hiring and retaining employees. Hiring the right talent is the number one challenge, overshadowing finding customers, followed by retaining or motivating employees, according to the fall 2021 megaphone of Main Street Small Business Jobs Report, which was presented by SCORE. The report revealed that an overwhelming majority of small business owners surveyed rated hiring new employees as somewhat or very difficult. And 2/3 of the small business owners surveyed reported unified job openings, unfilled job openings. Pressure to increase wage and better benefits to stay competitive now impacts twice as many business owners, and some are struggling to meet those demands. Due to this, many businesses are becoming more creative about what incentives they offer employees to attract them to their business and to keep them engaged and invested in the business. This month's guest will discuss these hiring struggles and suggest strategies that can address the challenges of attracting and retaining talent in the new normal. So we will start with, let me give you a little information about our guest. Brian Duffy is originally from Miami, Florida, but he has lived all over the United States with the last 12 years being in Memphis. Mr. Duffy received a Bachelor of Science in Criminology, plus a minor in Japanese from the University of Memphis. He is married with 3 children, all teenagers. He also has 3 dogs, 2 cats, 9 chickens, because when you own chickens, eggs are free. And eggs, of course, everybody knows is very expensive this last year or so. Mr. Duffy has worked for the last 5 years at Paychex in the HR and Compliance Division. He enjoys working with small to medium-sized businesses by helping them find and keep great employees, stay compliant, and create efficiencies within the business. Joseph Castleman, our other guest, is originally from Martin, Tennessee, where he earned a Bachelor of Science in Geoscience. From there, he moved to Nashville in 2015 and worked as a sales representative managing accounts like the Tennessee Titans, Nashville Predators, Country Music Hall of Fame, and the famed Ryman Auditorium, to name a few. He moved to his wife's hometown of Memphis with their 2-year-old daughter in 2023 and has been a sales representative of Paychex since that time. So we will start with Joseph Castleman. Joseph, can you talk to us about what you do and start your presentation?
Absolutely. Thank you, Gail. We really appreciate you having us on today. Like Gail said, I from Martin, Tennessee, originally, if anyone knows where that is. Maybe you've been to our famed soybean festival that they have every year. But I'm a West Tennessee kid, born and raised. So, was in Nashville for 8 years and then moved back here. My wife, we moved back here actually last year, 2022. I think I said 2023, but 2022, my wife is originally from Memphis. She grew up here, went to Ridgeway High School. So we decided to move back and raise our family here. Brian and myself both work for a company called Paychex, and I am a sales rep. And so I would be a bad salesman if I didn't let everybody know a little bit about what we do, but I promise to be brief. We help small businesses in regard to business solutions, including payroll, obviously getting your employees paid, and there are taxes that need to be taken out of employees' checks on the employer side, on the employee side. There are 941s and quarterly reports that need to be sent to the IRS. Basically, we can get all of your employees paid and make sure you're all square with the IRS. Compliance is a big deal when you're running a business, and you don't want to be on the IRS's bad side. So we try to keep you in their good graces, and we actually take on 100% of the tax liability. So if there is a mistake ever to be made, we would be held responsible for that. Your business would not. But we can also help with things like time and attendance, HR services, 401k, retirement, health benefits, etc. So if anybody has any questions about any of those things and would like to talk, please reach out to Brian or myself, and we'll be able to chat with you about that. So enough of that, but we're here to talk about attracting and retaining quality employees. Kind of in a post-COVID world, it's hard to be fully staffed, right? That's something I see business owners every single day, and that is probably their biggest issue that they've been facing, is being fully staffed. So, it's one thing to be fully staffed, which is hard to do. It's another thing to be fully staffed and those staff be quality employees. And then it's even another thing to be fully staffed with quality employees that want to and will stick around. So I think our presentation today that Brian is going to head up is about that, ways that you can attract people to your staff, ways to keep them happy so that they will want to stay with you and help your business grow. So with that, yes.
Joseph, let me ask you this before we move on to, does this impact any industry more than another industry? What industry is it hurting the most?
I mean, honestly, I don't know if there's one that is hurting the most. Obviously, for some businesses that have just historically high turnover rates, places like restaurants, there's always people kind of coming and going. So
did they have that problem before the pandemic, or did it just increase and it's still there? Or
I think it's just increased. I mean, like I said, there's businesses since the dawn of time, I'm sure, have had problems with keeping some staff, but definitely COVID really exacerbated that. And so ones that maybe had issues like that, they made them a little bit worse. And then some companies that were usually very stable and didn't really have a lot to worry about when it came to that, suddenly do have to worry about that. So it's kind of hitting everybody, and no one is unaffected. Paychex even, we have times when we're affected by it as well. So it's most small businesses are affected by it these days, for sure.
Real quick, I'll mention, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
I believe every type of business has been impacted. I will say, with the exasperation of it, I believe it's just been multiplied in the last 2 years. First with COVID, then with enhanced unemployments, with recessions, with inflation. I think it's multiplying some of the challenges for business owners. I think we all, locally know if you think about like restaurants or places that are just closed because they're not open, they don't have staff, or businesses that are shut down at 6 p.m. because they don't have staff. I think just a year or two ago, I think Kroger's and Walmart's were open 24 hours a day, and now they close at midnight. So
do you see that changing anytime soon, Brian? Do you think if the economy, because I know that we are having all over the country layoffs by the thousands, the interest rate has gone up for homes, groceries are extremely high. So, do you think that this will be changing as the economy grows or gets better?
I think there's some inherent problems, but without any more outside influences, I do feel like things will right size themselves. First, we didn't have enough jobs. Like people wanted to work and they couldn't. Then we had the last year and a half, we heard of the Great Resignation, where like 60% of every U.S. employee had either left or thought about leaving their company for somewhere else within the last 6 months. About 6
You
months
do
after
know,
that, go ahead.
yeah, but the great resignation now is turning to the great stay. Many employees are not leaving at the rate that they were before because of the fear that, because of the economy, they don't know if they go somewhere else, if number one, if they're going to like it better, is the grass greener, or if they're going to be the first laid off because they were the last hired. So some now are, based on all that I'm reading, are not leaving at the rate they were leaving. And then also remember when people were leaving during COVID, there was a lot of financial aid available for employees who just left the workplace, and that those dollars dried up last year.
Right. Well, let me mention one thing about that. So when they did the last stimulus act, and when they did the stimulus act that brought you the payroll protection loans, there's also something called employee retention tax credits. And any business that was either in business prior to COVID beginning or started business operations after February 2020, but before the end of calendar year 2021, there's still federal tax dollars set aside for those businesses.
Oh, okay. But
Now,
are they called COVID dollars, or are they just some dollars that are available?
There's it's through the same stimulus, but it's called the Employee Retention Tax Credit, which is what's available now. It has been extended. It is something that Paychex helps clients with. There are qualifications. You can't just show up. The PPP loans, everybody got one if you had a business. The Employee Retention Tax Credit, I would say that a majority of the greater Memphis businesses most likely would qualify, but they would either need to consult with their CPA, their tax advisor, or again, even somebody like myself at Paychex, who's a subject matter expert. I help people with it all the time. But as we get ready to move into the presentation, whether it's before COVID or after COVID, it's always a challenge to find good quality long-term employees. And we talked about the Great Resignation, the Great Stay. What we're going to talk about is, what do they want? Well, why do people leave? What can I do with my business to get people to attract them there and to stay? And I work, a quick qualification, I meet with 10 business owners in the greater Memphis area every week. So literally between 500 to 600 businesses every calendar year I'm meeting with. And we're all talking about the same things. Most of the businesses I'm speaking with have between 3 to 200 employees. So I'm helping a very small mom and pop with 3 employees or a larger business with 100, 150 employees. And all of these can apply to them. And it's about resources and knowing what to do. So I think if we, when you're ready, we can move in the presentation, and a lot of these we're actually going to go over a few of these things as well. But Gale, do you have any other questions before we move into that?
No.
And by the way, love the questions. We love to help at Paychex. We're going to mention a few things, and I will say that everything that we talk about today is something that our clients are experiencing, and we do have different ways to help and impact and different resources to help small businesses. If we'll go ahead and look at this quick housekeeping note, go ahead and ask your questions in real time, but most likely we'll wait to the end of the PowerPoint, and we'll go back in and answer some of those. But you definitely don't have to wait to type a question into the Q&A. So without further ado, let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. Okay. So the agenda for today, we're going to talk about why is attracting and keeping good employees important? Why does it matter? Why do employees leave? How do I attract employees? What do they want? Besides money, what do they want to stick around? Where can I find employees? And then we'll summarize and sum up with some questions and answers. Next slide, please. So first off, why is keeping good employees important? Well, the loss of an employee can trigger a cascade of negative impacts. Your production and your revenues can be impacted. Other employees may be required to pick up the extra work until they find a new warm body. That can have a ripple effect and the feelings of resentment and anxiety for the staff who is having to pick up the slack when you have turnover. And the departure of an employee may also spark uncertainty and doubt among other employees regarding their own sense of security within the organization. If the best person at a business leaves, the other people might look around and say, why did he leave? What does he know that I didn't know? Should I think about leaving too? So it all matters. And the most important thing as we think about this is it costs a lot of money to advertise, recruit, hire, train, and get a new employee up to speed. Cost a lot of hard dollars and soft dollars. Next slide, please. So as we dig into it, first off, let's talk about why do people leave? And what I've found in the last 5 years of speaking with business owners, it's almost always some aspect of either pay, culture, or benefit. So as we go through some of the examples, they could have stagnant wages or inadequate compensation. I believe since COVID, I believe that the hourly rate for a lot of companies has had to increase. I see a lot of people who are starting off at $8, $9 an hour, making $10.50, $12 an hour, even $15 an hour as a introduction to the business, just to be competitive. Another reason people might leave is limited path for advancement or career growth. The number one thing that I see is they leave because of bad managers, bad coworkers, or a toxic work environment. That's definitely something from culture. Feeling unappreciated or having a lack of recognition. Benefits. Maybe we don't have a benefit program at all, or I have a benefit program, but it's just not very good. It's not something that they want. Boredom or feeling stuck or overlooked. The job or the role isn't as expected. They're seeking improvement in work-life balance, or they're just desiring to make a change. Those are a lot of reasons why people leave. Next slide, please. So when we think about it, when we're looking at how do I attract, how do I find them? Well, what do they want? One thing that's super important I want everybody to come away from this conversation with is you want to find your way to making your business, your company, an employer of choice. You want to be a destination for these employees. You do not want to be a stepping stone or a gap job as they look for their next home. And how do we do that? Well, number one, they want competitive pay, right? It's a number one desire for good employees. If they can make $1, $1.50 an hour or more across the street doing the same thing, I guarantee you they're going to leave without any other loyalty or anything else keeping them there. Benefits. Most good long-term employees do want some kind of benefit program. They may not even want it today, but they want to know that you guys offer it and for them to stay long-term. So examples of benefits, paid time off, healthcare, 401k or a retirement option, maybe some work from home options, an employee assistance program, mental health resources, etc. Not all benefits have to be medical, dental, vision. There's a lot of benefits that you can offer, a lot of things that really don't have to cost money or a lot of money. Paid time off is one of them. An employee assistance program and mental health resources is another up and coming benefit where I believe the statistic is 50 to 60% of all generation Gen Z and Gen Y employees are looking for some kind of mental health resource to come work at a company. Additionally, culture is very important. I want everybody to remember this. People do not leave companies. They leave bad managers or toxic work environments. They want to like what they do. They want to like who they work with. So, you can give them recognition. You can find ways to do work-life balance. And we'll talk about that. And then another thing that good employees want is they want to get training or some kind of advancement, especially the younger, the millennials, the zillennials, Gen Y and Gen Z. They want the opportunity to learn new skills. They want to get certifications. They want to know they have advancement opportunities. If they are working at the front office of a hotel, or if they're flipping burgers, they don't want to think, hey, well, in 20 years, will I be doing exactly the same job? Or is there somewhere for me to go with the organization? These are all things you want to think about and consider when you're thinking about how am I going to attract good people and how am I going to get them to stick around? Next slide, please. Okay. So let's move into, where do I find these people, right? Like, they're out there somewhere. How do I find them? So there's many ways to find and recruit good employees. What I want everybody to remember is there's at least 4 different generations in the workforce. There's the baby boomers, Gen Xers, Gen Y, which is the millennials, and Gen Z, which is the new generation, the zillennials. Every one of those generations of people, they want something different out of a job, and they care about different kinds of benefits. And this is very important. You'll recruit and find different generations in different places. You can't just throw something out on a job board and hope you'll be able to attract all 4 people. You can't just put something out on Facebook and hope that you're going to be able to hit the entire audience. It's just not the same. So next slide, please. So where do we find them? So the very best employees statistically are referrals, word of mouth. If you can get your employees to tell somebody else about the job and refer them over to the job. So good and happy employees, they'll talk up their job and the different job openings to friends and different people they meet. They're the best employees statistically to hire. So what can you do? You can offer a referral program. You know, if I happen to find somebody and refer them over here and they work and say they will stay here for at least 3 months, you know, people will give you like a $300 bonus, $500 bonus, different things. A good referral program is a very great way to kind of get that behavior to continue to go. So when you're having your team meetings, discuss what you're looking for in good employees, the job openings that are coming up, and talk to them about a referral program and see if you can get your good employees to start talking up the company and see if they can find some good employees for you. You'd be surprised the quality employees that come from referrals. They also statistically stay for a year or longer if they've been referred. So websites. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people making is they'll go out to, I'm not going to mention any specific job boards today, but they'll spend a lot of money advertising on the job boards, but they already have a website. And one of the biggest mistakes I notice people say is they don't have a career or job opening tab on their own website. People are stopping by and they're visiting you, right? They're looking at your website online. They're looking to see what you do. They're reading some of your information. Having a landing page for job opportunities, super important. How is somebody else going to know? Are we going to have them come to your website to see if they like the company, then go on to a job board to see if there's any openings? So create a landing page and make sure to say, what is the job that's open? You know, are there any perks? Are there any benefits? What's a job description? What are they supposed to do? And you can even attach a link to have them apply. If you're already hosting a website, this should not cost you any additional money. It should just be getting with your IT or whoever's helping you with your website to put that in place. Speaking of job boards, you know, there's LinkedIn, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, etc., Glassdoor. There's dozens of them. So those are great places to apply to post jobs. And there's free, and then there's also different amounts of money you can spend on there to boost your job openings. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I see lots of them. Career and hiring fairs. You can attend a career fair or you can create your own. And then college and trade schools. You know, you can recruit from graduating classes. If you're looking for, you know, maybe welders or or if you're looking for dental assistants, if you're looking for, certain people with certifications, go to those schools, put up an advertisement or a posting. You'll be shocked how many people are excited to apply just as soon as they're ready to graduate. Now, when we look at these options, the website, the job boards, the social medias, I want you to think how that plays out in the different generations of the workforce. Okay. Social media, Facebook, right? Most Gen Z and Gen Y, you're not going to find them on Facebook. You'll most likely find them on Instagram or TikTok. If you're looking for a Gen Xer, you're probably not going to be able to advertise and find them on TikTok. So you always want to think, what is the different, how am I making a holistic hiring strategy? How am I hitting all these 4 different generations of the workforce? Okay, next slide, please. All right, that's what I thought. So that's basically, as we sum up, why people leave, where can I find them, and what do they want? I'll pause now and we'll see if we have any questions or anything from the field.
Well, I do have something to say because one of the questions in here is about remote work.
Mm-hmm.
That tends to come up when we have these, and it's usually from MLGW employees.
Mm-hmm.
But what my research is constantly showing is that politicians, business leaders, business owners, and developers are pushing for the maybe 6 to 13% of people who are working remote, pushing that they come back to work primarily because big cities are losing thousands of dollars per worker each year due to the remote work.
Mm-hmm.
And many of the companies that are doing the layoffs, that have to do the layoffs, they tend to start with the employees who are working remote.
Mm-hmm.
So the numbers that I have seen, work from home research was about 13% of employees were fully remote in January, which has come all the way down, while 28% are working hybrid, and that number has dropped significantly also. So what are your thoughts on that?
There's 2 things I think about. One, the cities, the towns, the businesses, they need the workforce to be local because of the tax dollars that you spoke of. And also from a productivity, I do believe that people who are in an office setting are on average slightly more productive than people who 100% work from home.
And that's the data that I've also seen as well.
Yeah. However, what I do want to speak to is, what do employees want? I promise you, a lot of employees want to work from home. So the best option, if you can, is a hybrid option. 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, 4 days in the office, 1 day at home, something like that. And not every job can be hybrid as well. Like right now,
Brian, and excuse me, but one of the things I read was, out of all of the options, that the hybrid option was the most difficult to manage.
It might be. And that's why, I work with the HR division with Paychex, and we work with different businesses on how to manage and lead either different kinds of workforces, a remote workforce, a hybrid workforce, or even the traditional, we're all in the office. There's challenges with each, but with the proper resources, you can overcome those challenges. And for example, myself, since COVID, I have been primarily a work from home employee, and our productivity has skyrocketed since that, to the point where my company is most likely leaving a large portion of our workforce remote, just because our productivity has skyrocketed. So it all comes down to, how do you manage, how do you lead, how do you overcome some of those challenges?
Well, and one of the comments is that each generation is looking for something different. And I kind of disagree with that, because some people think that the younger folks, is a Gen Z or whatever, want to work from home. But all the research I've read is they are the least likely to want to work from home, because they have worked, they've gone to school from home. Everything they've done has been at home. So they want to be in the workplace. They want to be meet and work with their colleagues. They also want to feel that is more advantageous for advancement to be in the office. So it depends. It's not one generation wanting something over the other. It's a mix of all the generations that want different things.
Yeah. I think you're right. When I had mentioned that each generation wants something different, I think about when we're attracting them, what do they want? Like a zillennial, a Gen Z, they probably don't want hard benefits right now. Like they're probably on their parents' insurance and they're not even thinking about retirement. So if you have a company that you're trying to attract more, like say a fast food restaurant, et cetera, and you're primarily dealing with 16 to 22-year-olds, probably the best option is not to go out and get yourself hard benefits because that won't. So there's other things. There's soft benefits. But yeah, and there's no absolutes with this. There's what we see some of the data saying different things. Like myself, I'm Gen X. I have to have medical, dental, vision, life insurance, and a retirement option, or my wife won't let me work at the company. So there's just different things that, that we do need.
Yeah, and so, and another thing that you talked about was, people leaving. One of the things I read was some employers are not throwing a whole lot at hiring some of these people because it costs so much. And then some of them who are job hopping may be there only a year or two. So they now are in their postings, the pay is not what it had been during the pandemic when they needed these people to come in, because they are losing a great deal when employees only stay a year or two.
From the small business owners that I speak to, right now, a lot of them would love to have an employee that stays for at least a year. They're trying to get their employees to stay for a year.
Mhm.
So that's like a stopgap that we're doing right now. What does it take? And when you think about things like security, hospitality, home health, staffing, those, if they could get an employee to stay for a year or longer, those business owners would finally be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, and I agree with those different professions, but there are some other professions where people are not leaving as quickly because the jobs are not as available for them.
Sure.
It just depends on the profession that you're in and what the city you're in, and also are you willing to relocate? And some companies, I was reading also that some companies are willing to pay for relocation
Mhm.
for employees to be closer to work so they can come to work every day.
Mhm. Yes, those are great. Being relocatable is a great thing to have if you're looking to get for advancement, and then companies that are able to pay for relocation. What I find is, especially with like the 5 to 20 size employee count companies out here in the greater Memphis area, most of them probably getting people right now because it's just not something that's in their budget. But it is a great thing to be able to do if you have those resources.
Okay, so well, this time has flown by. Joseph, did you want to add anything and jump into this conversation?
Before Joseph hops in, I was going to mention one more thing. I think he was on mute anyways. So I will say that, there's lots of different resources out there besides just Paychex. But Paychex does help small business owners with all these things, whether it's finding and keeping, training them, upskilling them, from a compliance point of view, making sure that if you have an employee that's not productive or it just isn't the right fit, being able to separate with them without putting yourself in a bad situation or discriminating against them. But also, we also offer those full suite of benefits. We have a lot of employee pooling options where companies can get pulled in with about 400,000 other businesses. And when they do that, they're able to compete with the large businesses on benefits and retirement and HR resources, just like they were a large Fortune 500 company. So there are lots of things that companies like Paychex is doing. I happen to like Paychex the best, which is why I work here. But there's companies out there that, especially ours, that we work specifically to help overcome these challenges for small businesses.
Thank you for that, Joseph. Do you have anything that you want to add before?
I think Brian kind of hit on most things that we wanted to talk about. Is like I said at the beginning, it's hard to be fully staffed. It's hard to be fully staffed with good people, and it's really hard to keep those good people around. So when you do all these steps that kind of Brian was talking about, and you do find good people, do everything you can to keep them around, keep them happy. The people that you do have, maybe you've got 5 employees and all of them are brand new, except for one person that's been with you for 2 years. Sit them down and talk to them, and just say, hey, what do you like about being here? Why have you, stuck around with me? You never know what they might say, and you might learn a little bit something about people kind of in their situation. Maybe something to them was very important that you just didn't even put much thought into. So you never know until you kind of start talking to people. But obviously, again, me and Brian work for Paychex, so just like he said, we push for that. But also, give me a call, give Brian a call. We're happy to give you kind of a free consultation anyway. And if you just have questions in general, I know Brian's been very helpful with people in the past. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody as well if they have any kind of questions.
So, but you are providing the services that you do to small businesses. Do you all basically save them a lot of money? Like they don't have to hire staff because of the services that you offer?
Well,
So
it's kind of, go ahead, Brian.
we do outsource a lot of things, but there is a real cost to using a company like Paychex. So different things do cost different amounts of money, but what I will say is we're cheaper than hiring somebody in-house. And also there's a real cost of turnover. So I work with some companies, go back to the security companies, the home health, et cetera, where for them, it's normal to have 300, 400% turnover year over year. For people, if I can impact their turnover by 25, 30% just to start off with, then that pays for itself, whatever Paychex would charge to do that. And we also,
that's one way to measure your success.
Yes, that's correct. I've helped hundreds of local businesses, and I will say that each business is unique. You could take the exact business. You could have 2 fast food restaurants, both selling burgers. I promise you, each individual business is unique. The demographics, everything, just make the business model is unique. So there's no cookie cutter answer. So we don't have a magic wand that we put, but we kind of wave over everybody. But with what we do and the resources we're able to give businesses, yes, we're able to help. And year over year, when you look at hard costs and soft costs, combined, they will end up saving the money. But there's a cost of doing business that we charge.
So Brian and Joseph,
Mm-hmm.
You could take a wild guess on when will we be returning back to pre-COVID or even close to pre-COVID in terms of employment and stability in the workplace?
I think we're at least 2 years away from that.
Okay.
We have outside factors. Inflation and recession right now are the 2 biggest factors that are squeezing small businesses. And look, all this is cyclical, right? Like 5 years ago, we had record low unemployment. And then the last 2 years, 3 years, we've had record high unemployment. Now we're back to historic lows. So it's cyclical, but now we're dealing with recessions and inflation. We talked about the price of eggs earlier. It used to be $1.89, $2.25 a dozen. Now you're paying $8 or $9. If you want organic, it might be as much as $11 for 18. So
Brian, you don't pay for eggs, right?
I don't pay for eggs, no. Not since COVID.
I've got to pay for my own eggs, so I can speak to those prices.
Okay, so Brian will help you out, Joseph.
Right.
Well, I will say too, there's a lot that we don't know yet, and during the pandemic, people going to school in different ways, going to college in different ways, going to trade schools in different ways. Some of that will dictate how the future comes out when people weren't hands-on in person doing things. So, we just don't know. But I think that time will tell, and all we can do is batten down and try to keep the good people you've got around you and make sure that your business succeeds.
Okay, so as we close, Joseph and Brian, could you just give 1 or 2 tips to small businesses regarding the services that you all offer?
Joseph,
yeah, sure. For me, I kind of mostly focus on the payroll side of things. So as far as I go, compliance is really big, right? Keeping on the right side of the IRS. You want to make sure Uncle Sam's happy. So definitely that is something that we can, take care of for you guys, obviously. And, a lot of people are like, well, I kind of, I do my own payroll, so I don't want to have to pay anybody to do it. Well, you're paying somebody to do it. If you're paying if one of your employees is doing it for you, you are paying for their time. If you're doing it yourself, you are paying yourself with your own time. Time is money, right? And there's nothing more important to a small business than time and money. And when we get busy, we make mistakes. I don't know anybody busier than a small business owner. And when it comes to your taxes and stuff, you definitely don't want to make any mistakes. So definitely compliance and saving you some time, saving you some headache, and knowing, like I said, we take on 100% of the tax liability. So knowing you've got that peace of mind that if anything were to happen, we would be responsible. And two, I will mention, as far as payroll goes, we don't hold you to any contracts. So you kind of come on board with us. Check us out. We like to say we earn your payroll every time we run it. So if you guys have any questions for me, my info's in the chat. Please reach out, call me, text me, shoot me an email, whatever you got to do. Find me in the street, whatever you got to do, come talk to me.
All right, Brian, how do you want to take us out?
Sure. I'll just say, basically myself, I've been in Memphis for the last 12 years, but I did grow up in Memphis before I left and came back. I love small business owners and small businesses. It's the backbone of American society. And I have high-level business conversations with owners, and I am a subject matter expert on a lot of different things. There's a lot of things you can do yourself. We can have conversations around it, but if there's ways Paychex can plug in and help you, or if you guys have questions about any of these leftover stimulus tax refunds that are available, even to ask if you even qualify, we're happy to help. So conversations are free. Happy to help. That's what they pay us the big bucks for.
So Joseph Castleman and Brian Duffy, both with Paychex, we greatly appreciate you being on here with us and sharing such valuable information with our viewers today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.